some interesting questions.
What's that?
We've had the announcement of the new
Oh yeah, the writers.
We've had the well, there's been other Doctor Who news.
The season 7 box set trailer.
Yes, we've had the season 7 box set trailer, so we finally for sure know what box set's coming.
Yeah, it got leaked a couple months before it was supposed to be released.
Of course it is.
So, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I bet we'll have the same thing with the next box set. I bet, like, sometime in the summer, maybe the autumn this year, we'll just have a leak of what the next box set is. And then we'll just be waiting for the BBC to just hurry up and confirm it.
What do you think the next box set will be?
I'm gonna go. Well, to be fair, they haven't really touched much of the Troughton era because they can't.
Yeah, they're still animating them, to be honest.
Yeah, so I
All
think we'll only get. I think we'll only get a announcement of a Troughton box set when the year 2050 comes around, probably.
Probably.
I probably think it's going to be a Baker because let's be honest, they haven't done all of Baker's yet. His episodes are all intact apart from Shada.
Season 16 and 13, I think, is left.
Yeah, so it'll probably be either of those because let's be honest, they want people to buy a box set of a series that they're going to like because obviously you'll have collectors buy all the box set, but you may have some people buy more box sets of a specific series, like season 26, then maybe season 22 or something, or 24.
Yeah. Oh, 22 and 20. Yeah,
I was trying to think of a Baker, a Colin Baker, not T Baker.
Oh, the only story that's not out with Colin Baker is Twin Dilemma.
Oh, your favourite?
No, it's not my favourite. It's your favourite. We'll get onto that one day.
Yeah, we'll. It'll be like Clockwork Orange when his eyes are being kept open.
Yeah, it'll be like.
Just be like, ah! Tom Baker turned 91.
Oh yeah, Tom Baker turned 91, and he's also got
MBE.
MBE.
Yeah,
it's not quite Knight of the Garter yet, though.
No, but I to be honest, the knighthoods are overrated. I would have preferred if he got a Pride of Britain award.
Yeah,
that's the only award that counts. That or the sexiest man alive. I'm sure Tom Baker would nail that award category.
Well, Sean Connery got one when he was 69.
But then there is a precedent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shall I go through the new writers?
Yeah. I've only heard of Pete Mateague.
Yeah,
or whatever his name is.
Doctor Who Series 15, because I refuse to call it Season 2 or whatever it is, because that would be the third time we've had Season 2 or Series 2, and it's ridiculous. we have Juno Dawson is coming on board. Inua Elams. Juno Dawson is a best-selling novelist, screenwriter, journalist, and she created the scripted podcast Doctor Who Redacted,
which I've not listened to.
Which I've not listened to either, because Sorry.
I watched. I listened to like 2 minutes of it and turned it off.
Was it that bad?
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it.
To be honest, when it comes to this is a really good point. Just on a little tangent. Doctor Who Expanded Media is a bit like it's sort of fine. It's like you can kind of pick and choose what you want to watch or read or listen or be subjected to in any way. And the good part is that because it doesn't affect the main TV series, you can just sort of ignore it or add it into your own sort of headcanon. But because of the nature of Doctor Who, because it's, every Doctor, all that kind of stuff, there's loads of it. So you could literally get like down a rabbit hole of Expanded Media, and then it just sort of becomes a chore because you're just trying to finish up that Doctor's era. So I dip my toes in. Like at the moment, I'm re-listening to Spare Parts, the Peter Davison Big Finish story. I do that when I'm while I'm working. I'll just put in my audio podcast and just sort of audio book and just sort of get to work. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about Expanded Media.
I've listened to some Big Finish productions. I obviously watched Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yes.
Is there any other? Oh,
K9 and Company.
Oh, it's
the
so bad.
Enough to ever grace our screens.
The most entertaining thing about that episode was the jaunty theme tune. K9.
Yeah, and the fact that whenever you see K9, it's always on a flat surface.
Yeah,
he's not a 4x4.
Yeah. But then you watch Leisure Hive, he's like getting pulled by a bit of string on Brighton Beach.
Oh my gosh. I do love K9. He's a great character. He will always be a fan favourite, but he is pretty much useless.
Yeah, he is pretty
He's only
useless.
had one good performance, and that was School Reunion for me.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of K9, to be honest. I used to be,
I like the concept.
Yeah.
The execution leaves a lot to be desired.
I used to like K9, but as I've gotten to be a bit older gentleman.
Yeah. Once you shook off the shackles of childhood.
Yeah. I was trying to how do I describe myself?
Well, you're not middle-aged, but you're not young.
Yeah, I'm not middle-aged. I'm not young.
You're in your wilderness years.
Yeah. I'm not quite 40 yet, but I'm still closer to 30.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The 30s are your wilderness years.
Yeah.
That's when you're still too young to have an opinion, but you're old enough to know that anyone younger than you has a really bad view or outlook on life because they haven't learned a lot yet. So you can moan at the younger, you can be critical of them, but you can't really stand up for yourself because you're not old enough to. It's that weird age gap,
Well, basically, you're a Gen Z.
Oh gosh,
you're an older Gen Z.
I'm a human being first.
I'm a younger millennial.
I find the culture war. I know this isn't Doctor Who anymore. I know we've gone on a tangent, but the culture war just annoys me. Anyway, going from K9 to K1.
I might edit this down a bit.
Is it worth reading the other writers? Pete McTeague, Sharma, and Angel Wolfall, and I don't know who else. I was on Doctor Who TV.co.uk if you wanted to check it out for yourself. But yeah, there's new writers coming on board because RTD is obviously struggling to make any good episodes. Anyway.
Yeah, but the only one I've heard is Pete McTeague. He wrote. What did he write in the Whittaker?
Let me Google it. Okay. So he was brought on for the Whittaker era. He started on the 11th series with the episode Kablam, the critique of the Amazon corporation that actually saw the Doctor side with the enemy for one, weirdly.
Yeah.
You know, just classic Doctor Who there. And then the year after, he was brought on to do Praxius, which
no,
I haven't seen that one, but I know a lot of people hate it.
I hate it.
So you know, his first two episodes haven't been well received. He's also revitalized the Target series because he's added his Kablam into it. It's probably been the opposite of reviving it. It's probably killed it for dead. I'm very negative. I'm very negative today. I've come out with both this.
was beginning to sound like Review of Death.
Yeah.
Is this gonna be?
I was gonna say, shall we just call ourselves Review of Doom?
That might copyright strike us or something. Hey, we thought of this first.
Yeah, McTeague has and also he's co-wrote the War Between the Land and the Sea, the spin-off show that will probably not be successful, because no one asked for it, no one wanted it, and yet RTD rushed it into production.
Do you want to know something about the name of that spin-off?
Yeah.
Torch is an anagram for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Well, mix up the letters for the War Between the Land and the Sea, and what do you get?
TWBLS.
No. TWATS.
Twat.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, there was only one. Oh no, there are two T's.
Yeah.
Just leave out the B and the W. No, just leave out the B. It's twats, you know, twats. But what was the actual anagram?
Twats.
Oh right, okay, so it is twats.
Yeah, twats.
That definitely sums up the Doctor Who executive producing creative team there. I'm sure my good friend Eccleston will agree. Anyway, Robots.
Robots, yes.
Starring Tom Baker in his first outing.
Yeah, his first outing. Yeah.
So,
first of all,
yeah.
What's
I need
your
you to
history?
take over because I'm
What?
I just need you to take over a second because I just can't. Yeah.
you got the giggles.
I do. Yeah.
Is it my little
yeah,
me messing with the letters?
Yeah. Honestly, I can't get it out of my head now. I'm just gonna refer to it as Twatspa. Anyway.
I don't know where we got to.
No, this is the problem when you have two autistic people in the same room. We go off tangent and we just lose the plot. We were talking about Robot.
Oh yeah,
Tom
Robot
Baker.
with Tom Baker, Elizabeth Sladen, and Ian Martin.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
with-
my question. That was my question. What's your history with this story? Where did you first see it?
So, bearing in mind, we're going to go back 9 years to 2006.
9 years.
9 years ago, yeah.
2006. 19 years.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. No, I was thinking 2016 was 2000. Oh my gosh. Oh gosh. Okay.
What?
Yeah, 19 years. I seem to think I'm not 27 years of age anymore. Yeah, 19 years ago, I just watched the first series of Doctor Who, and the second series was just starting. And I believe I received a copy. I received a copy of the episode, I think from like my nan or something for Christmas or birthday or something like that. So I had it on DVD and I put it on, and it was just a great episode. It was from the beginning to the end. I was just hooked. And this was the only story of Tom Baker's that I first watched, because I hadn't dipped into the classic era that much. So, but I don't know if it was the first classic era episode. I don't know if it was Resurrection of the Daleks that was my first, but it was one of them, definitely. How about you?
I think I've seen it on UK Gold.
It would have most likely been, pardon me, broadcast on UK Gold.
Yeah, but it wasn't the first story that I seen. It was actually the Ark in Space.
Oh, so the literal next episode.
Yeah, I somehow caught the Ark in Space, and I don't know if Robot was before it, but like in the running order on UK Gold, they sometimes go out of order or like skip stories
they're just
entirely.
Repeats, aren't they?
Yeah, they have like a weird order sometimes.
What? So they wouldn't play all 4 parts, or they would, or
no, they would, but I meant the stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So you basically watch Doctor Who out of order?
No, from like Ark in Space onwards, I did see all the Tom Bakers, but
you may have just missed it then.
For some reason, I never seen Robot first. It was in like a later run of stories on UK Gold.
Interesting. Yeah. So, do you harbour a lot of nostalgia for this one, or is it one that you see as a good episode, but it's nothing too special?
No, I like this story. It does actually bring a lot of nostalgia. I was still a kid when I did watch this story. It wasn't far off from when I first got into it. I think it was like a couple of years after when they reverted back to the Tom Baker years.
Yeah.
Or that they might have reverted back to John Pertwee. It's one of the two, but it's a bit hazy.
Oh, very nice. I see it as a very nostalgic episode. I like it definitely feels like you're in the 70s or the 80s, depending on what you believe.
Yeah, the unit dating thing.
Yeah. But it definitely feels like I mean, I prefer the 4-parters if I'm going to be transparent. When it comes to the classic era, I prefer the 4-parters because I feel like it's
6-parters as well, though.
a tight. Well, I feel like the four-parters are a tighter story, but you still have every episode. Every part leads into the next, and I don't like when they go to the two-parters. I feel like it kind of annoys me because it's like you could just have it as one big episode, but you just had to have a crappy cliffhanger to split them up.
Yeah, there was a couple of two-parters in Classic Who.
But then you see some of the cliffhangers in this episode, and they're pretty funny.
Yeah. There's what was episode 1?
I think episode 2 is the one where the robot is trying to kill the Doctor.
Oh yeah, he puts a scarf over his eyes, and then he wakes up and hits Tom. And
what was the first part cliffhanger?
What was the first part? Oh, where we meet the robot and
Sarah Jane. I'm going to destroy you. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Yeah.
Yeah. But in part 2, it was like against its programming, basically. He was a good robot.
Well, that is kind of one of the questions I had to ask. Because do you think they accurately portray the laws of robotics in this episode? Because I feel like they play fast and loose with the laws, in my opinion.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, it's only because I love Isaac Asimov, and I love the laws of robotics he made, because I swear I found a loophole in it once, but it was a really fine one. But I've always found that when people make robot movies or TV shows and they try and portray, robot intelligence, I find some people like to go with the laws of robotics and others like to just sort of make up as they go along. I think actually the Doctor does reference Isaac Asimov. I'm not sure, but yeah, because with K1, I wonder if that was the precursor to K9. I wonder if they had the idea of K9 in mind. They called it K1.
No, I don't think so.
I just thought it'd be a really interesting theory, But yeah, I find I like robot stories, but I like it when they actually do delve into the nature of the morality of robots. But in this one, it's more just clunky robot goes around and kills people.
It's kind of like King Kong, but a robot.
Yeah. Well, it was. It was inspired.
I think that's what they were going for originally.
Well, I know that Terrence Dicks said that it was a major in the 1933 film was a major influence.
Yeah.
Before Tom Baker was cast.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember. He said that in the making of on the DVD and Blu-ray. In an interview he given on the making of the story.
And you can definitely see those elements, especially in the later part of the episode when it's the third and fourth part. You see more of the King Kong vibe. And I know that when writing this episode, Dix also said that the reason why he wrote in Harry's part, Ian Martha's part, was because they were possibly going for a more Hartnell-esque Doctor who'd be a bit more unable to do any of the sort of action sequences, but when Barry Letts had seen Tom Baker in the voyage of the Golden Voyage of Sinbad, sorry. Barry Letts was like, no, I want this guy.
Have you actually seen that film? I've seen it like a couple of years ago. I was like, this is a good film.
On my list. It is
It's
on my
on your
list because well, I'm gonna start doing a. This is unconnected to NAWP, so cut this if you don't want to add it in. But I am doing a cinematic classics series because I want to delve into cinema from the classic era.
I do like some of these films.
Well, I just feel like you know,
Jason and the Argonauts and all that.
Yeah, like Ray Harryhausen, you know, that style of animation. I just I get kind of bored of new films. So anyway, but yeah, that's definitely on my list. I need to rewatch Vault of Horror actually because he was very good in that film.
Yeah.
And that was one he did before Doctor Who.
Yeah, that was before Doctor Who. I seen it years ago on like the Horror Channel or something like that.
Yeah.
It was Sky Channel or TCM. It's something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's on one of them niche channels that show old films.
Yeah. I went on a bit of a horror binge a few years ago, and watched like the Tales from the Crypt series. And then I heard about Vault of Horror having a connection, and I thought, oh, I'll just watch that. And I didn't know Tom Baker was in it until he turned up, and then I was like, okay, this film is fine. This film is, even if it's bad, he's still in it, so it's great. So
yeah, anything Tom Baker touches is great.
Oh, Blackadder, just
he's in Blackadder 2.
Yeah, he actually hated doing that episode. Fun fact.
Yeah, it's Blackadder 2, wasn't it?
Yeah. He said his acting in that episode was the worst that he's ever done, and yet it's the best thing I've like comedy wise. I feel like it's better than anything Little Britain. Like, just hilarious. Anyway, back to Robot.
Yeah. What do you think of the villains? The
science,
Miss
the extreme
Winters
scientist.
and Miss Winters and Jellicoe.
Miss Winters, the actress who plays her, was in a previous episode. Actually, she played a member of the technical staff in unit in the Demons.
Oh,
yeah! Fun fact.
I don't actually remember her being in it.
Well, when we get onto the Demons, you can rewatch it and see.
I've watched that story hundreds of times. I don't remember.
Is it one of your favourites?
Yeah, it's one of my favourites.
Well, now you have something to look at again and try and look a bit closer and see if you can spot her. I don't know if she's got any.
Like one of them background people.
Well, it says here that. Oh no! Sorry, I misread it.
Yeah, I was wondering what.
Alec Lindstead, the Jellicoe guy, is in it. Not her. Sorry.
I was like, have I been watching the wrong story all these years?
I nearly gave you a dose of the Mandela effect.
You did.
No, Jellicoe is in the Demons.
Who did he play?
Sergeant Osgood.
Oh yes. I just didn't put them two together.
Yeah.
No, because he's wearing them big, thick glasses.
Well,
and he's
Now you know.
playing a totally different character as well to his
Well, yeah,
character in Robot.
I expect there's a difference between military incompetence and scientific extremism.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, UNIT are a good organization, but most of the time they're pretty incompetent.
Yeah.
Like in Robot, they're fighting against a bulletproof robot with bullets, and none of them ever decide to whack out a rocket launcher or a flamethrower or maybe an airstrike might have helped.
They did use a rocket launcher in the Demons.
So if there's historical precedent of them using this, oh gosh.
But it went
I'm gonna put it
all
down
back
to
together. The Bok statue. It went.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Maybe that was their military directive. Don't use rocket launchers because they're useless against this one thing. So we're not going to use them for anything else. We're not going to. It can't eliminate this one threat. So we can't use rockets for any other threatening being.
I'm going to edit that out. I was just saying hello to my partner.
Oh.
Hello.
Yeah. Unit are great, but they yeah. They're just a bit incompetent. Yeah, the science, the extreme scientists, back to our original. They're interesting, for sure. Their basic ambition is the world doesn't take us seriously because we're all scientists. So to make them take us seriously, we're going to hold them to ransom. Therefore, sort of eliminating our argument, because science is meant to stand for humanity, and if we're going to use science to blackmail humanity, then it's just one of those where the villains are just have to be villainous, and there's a lot of borderline fascist, like with the armbands and the sort of slogans and all this sort of it's just it's very much sort of touching the line of how far you want to take the villains before they start crossing over to you can't take them seriously at all. That being said, I do think Miss Winters is a good female villain. I like the fact that when she's first introduced, Sarah Jane is sexist.
Yeah, she mistakes Miss Winters just to be like the assistant.
Yeah. Which the thing is, I saw that and I was like, let's be honest, the 70s, not many women were in positions of prominent power. It would only be until 79 where you got the first female prime minister. So let's be honest, Sarah Jane was well within her rights to accidentally mistake the man for the head of the institute, because most men were.
Yeah,
you know?
and there weren't many female Doctor Who villains either,
exactly. So I think really they could have done a better twist. It would have been fun to have Jellicoe as pretending to be the head, and it was actually Miss Winters controlling him. You know, that would have been a bit more interesting.
Yeah. I like how she plays it as well. She's like she's like very like
chewing the scenery.
You know, when after before she sets the robot onto Sarah, she's like very level and like just chewing the scenery, and later on
really camping it up.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And then later on in the story, there's they're at that that rally, and she's like giving it all.
She really goes for the for the jugular.
Yeah,
That's the thing is the extreme scientific organization is an interesting concept, but it kind of just falls a bit flat because they're trying to use science as a it's like the world doesn't take them. It feels a bit like what the tech billionaires are now.
yeah.
So, like, the tech billionaires now are like, oh, no one takes us seriously, so we're gonna blackmail them into taking us seriously. And it's kind of like, yeah, but you don't seem honest. You don't seem likable. The whole reason why stupidity prevails is because people like stupid. It's a vote winner. So I feel like the extreme scientists are a fun aspect, but if they had more time, I think they could have really made this episode better by just giving them more of a stated goal to improve the world instead of just saying no one takes it seriously. Yeah. Well, how do you feel about the robot? Because let's be honest, Doctor Who has a very notorious history with clunky villain.
Yeah,
like,
it couldn't walk very well, couldn't it? Let's be honest.
And the most it could do was attack empty boxes. And even then it nearly because there's a moment where it crashes through a door and it has to take a moment to actually like get other bits of the door off to get through. So and yeah, it's a guy in the suit, and obviously you can't see the guy in the suit, but you can kind of tell that he's probably struggling a lot, like with being not able to see and not able to just move.
Do you know who played the robot?
David Prowse. Oh no, sorry, that was Styles.
No, David Prowse was in Doctor Who, by the way.
Didn't he play one of the Cybermen?
Who, David Prowse?
Yeah.
No, he played the Minotaur in the Time Monster.
With a very strong... That? No, I didn't.
Yeah, he played the Minotaur in Time Monster.
Oh, wow. Is it a speaking role or just grunting?
Yeah, he's just like doing the whole...
Oh, right, okay. So he doesn't have any, like...
no, he doesn't have any lines.
Have you seen the clip of David Prowse as Darth Vader? And he says the line that James Earl Jones obviously re-recorded. And it's so funny. It's just this really quintessentially British line coming out of Darth. I want them alive, and then just storms off. Oh my gosh, it's funny because it really devalues the threat of Darth Vader. You just have this quintessential Englishman screaming like a madman.
Anyway, okay. The guy who plays the robot is Michael Kilgareth. He plays the cyber controller from Tomb of the Cybermen.
Right. Okay.
Then he comes back in Attack of the Cybermen
as the controller.
Yeah, as the controller. Some fans take the mick out of him because he's put on a bit of weight. He's a bit chunky in that cyber outfit in the 80s.
Oh, bless them.
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
he plays the cyber controller as well.
Well, could you theoretically link both of the roles because they're both set on Talos? So it could just be
the exact same character.
Yeah. So theoretically, it's just the same. It's the same character. He's just put on a little bit of weight, cyber weight. for the cyber padding, you know? That's what Cybermen do. They chug oil. I just have this vision of just Cybermen just chugging like crude oil, going, oh, excellent.
Excellent.
Obviously, Nicholas Courtney and John Levine reprise their roles in this episode. I mean, they have to. Given it's a unit story.
The throwback from the previous era.
Well, it was because during obviously the third Doctor, he obviously gained the power of the TARDIS back.
In the Three Doctors.
That's it. Which I thought was a little bit of a mistake because I prefer the Doctor when he's stranded on Earth. It's just better.
Yeah, Tom Baker didn't want that. He wanted to go out and kick some alien butt in space.
I felt like this. Yeah, I felt like this episode is a really good way of leaving the Pertwee era behind and moving forward. You know?
Yeah, and this is kind of like a last hurrah for the unit like family, really. I mean, the Brigadier and Sergeant Benton.
Well, we would see. We would see.
Yeah, I know they're in terror of
them come back.
The Zygons and the
Android
invasion. But with Robot, I think this is like a kind of like one last like regular send off for them, really, before they get back to space travel and all that.
So yeah. I personally I do like this episode. I like the fact that it was a good outing for the unit guys, and this is the first episode of probably the most iconic and beloved Doctor of all time.
He was my first Doctor.
Yes. He's
very nostalgic for me.
Well, and he's your favourite, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's my favourite.
Yeah. So, it's like
most definitely
the nation.
My favourite.
Yeah. Well, he again with Baker, when we go into his era more, we'll see the good and the bad and the a lot to be desired. Let's say episodes.
I can admit he has some bad stories as well, like the Horns of Nymon and Underworld.
Yes, and Underworld's coming up, isn't it?
No, the Armageddon Factor. Oh no, what a bore that story is.
It'll be on the next episode.
No, it won't be.
But you can kind of tell with Baker that he just nails the role from the beginning, because I think this is the secret to acting as the Doctor, is to play the Doctor as if you're playing an exaggerated version of yourself. Because William Hartnell, for example, was pretty much the same person off screen than he was on screen. He was just a bit more racist off screen. Maybe. And Patrick Troughton.
That's the speculation, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, can we get him on the podcast to comment on that, or is that just a bit too late?
Yeah, you're about 40 years too late.
Damn. And we call ourselves a time traveling podcast. But then with Tom Baker, you really see that he is the same man off screen as on screen. He is playing himself, just a more exaggerated version. So I wonder if that is just the secret of playing Doctor Who, is not to imagine yourself as some godlike being like the later part of Doctor Who has done, but to just imagine him as just this eccentric person. Because that's what I was getting at sort of last week, where modern writers, I feel like, have mythologized Doctor Who too much, and therefore they're playing into the whole mythology than they are the actual fact that it's just a guy who goes around time and space saving universes, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like with Robert Holmes, take and of course Hinchcliffe and later JNT taking on the producing side, they really just hammer home that it is just a guy going around the universe saving people. You know, it's
Yeah,
there
that's
doesn't
what
need to
Doctor
be any
Who
more.
should be.
Sorry, I was going to let you continue.
I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, that's what Doctor Who should be, battling aliens and through time and space.
And I do understand where, because I know the Cartmel plan was for the Doctor to be one of the original founders of Gallifrey, which I think wouldn't have gone down very well. But I think really when you water down all the tacked on elements that the latest creative teams have tried to wedge in, when you just sort of strip it down to its core element of Doctor, companion, adventure in space and time, that's where you get the best episodes, the best formula. When you try and make it this big mythologizing, he's the answer to the universe's problems, and the universe can't exist without him, and all this sort of nonsense. It first restricts the Doctor. It puts way too much weight on the universe as it basically revolving around him, and I feel like it just misses the point completely. And that's why you can't really have Doctors like Tom Baker anymore, because they have to overextend themselves.
Yeah.
That was my little rant of the episode, folks. Yeah, so some of the filming took place at the BBC Engineering Training Department at Wood Norton, Worcestershire.
Yeah, you know what else filmed?
Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Yeah, and Spearhead from Space, I think, as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just looking at the Wikipedia article, so take anything I say with a pinch of salt.
Or I might have got
sure
it confused with another location, which was BBC property. I don't know. I might have to look that one in.
When we get round to Invasion of the Dinosaurs, you can really sort of double check that. The viewing figures actually are probably some of the best viewing figures Doctor Who has ever had, especially for the population sizes. So from the 28th of December 1974 to the 18th of January 1975, there was on average about 10 million viewers. The last part only having 9 million, which is quite good for Doctor Who. Seeing how sometimes it sort of falls between.
Sorry.
No, go
on. They were regularly getting them kind of views during the early part of the Tom Baker era, up to probably like season 17, where they were getting like 15, 16 million.
Yeah. Well, his era took off, and I think really established the show as an institution. Because obviously you had the three predecessors, but the viewing figures held pretty much stable for their eras, dipping off towards the end of each Doctor. And then you saw a spike when the new Doctor was introduced. So for Tom Baker to be the longest running Doctor to still have consistent or growing figures by the end of his run is pretty. It's an accomplishment, I'd say.
I mean, before they actually cast Tom Baker, they were like, no, they They were like, no one could take over from John Pertwee. You could top John Pertwee, but
yeah.
that they, in some respects, they did. Or am I being a bit biased because Tom Baker is my favourite Doctor?
Well, this is the really interesting question, in my opinion, because every Doctor pretty much has had, or I would say the two most well known criticism in that regard is John Pertwee, Tom Baker, and I'd say David Tennant are the three probable Doctors that, after their run, and as their, as the new Doctor was announced, everyone was saying, "Oh, you can't replace so and so with so and so." That and I feel like the detractors are part of the problem, because if you say, "Oh, you can't replace John Pertwee with Tom Baker," John Pertwee was a staple of the show, and then when Tom Baker goes, "Oh, you can't replace Tom Baker with Peter Davison," or when
As they
Matt
called him,
Smith
the
was
wet vet.
announced, the wet vet, of course. All creatures great and small. And the same with Matt Smith. When Matt Smith was announced, I mean, the BBC very much nearly cancelled Doctor Who because they're like, how are we going to run the show with no great person? And the BBC were pleading with David Tennant to stay on. They were like, we will give you X amount to stay on. And it kind of just shows that David Tennant was not in it for the money; he was in it for the role. And now he's had his fun. Now he moved. Some may dispute the fact that he moved on because he was sort of always dragged in.
When the ratings were in dire straits.
Yeah.
Or for an anniversary.
Or like aspects of his era was always dragged into the show because it was like, oh, remember the Weeping Angels? Remember that great episode? They're back. Remember the Ood? They're back.
I know.
Remember the Doctor's TARDIS? Well, we've got it in, but we managed to steal it from the Doctor Who experience and light it in a really bad way, but it's back. So, I feel like when it comes to Doctor Who, the only people that say that you can't replace the Doctor are the people that don't want change and don't understand the core essence of the show. The whole purpose of Doctor Who is it's meant to change and grow and develop and be its new big, and in fact, what Baker's era did better than the Pertwee era did is it managed to actually have some decent episodes in space or on different planets.
Well,
and that's not a criticism.
No.
Sorry.
No. The Pertwee era was very, very consistent. It had rarely any bad episodes for an era.
Plus, with the Pertwee era, it saved most of its production for the Earth-based stories because they found that it was better to produce. It was more, like I watched Ambassadors the other day, and the production quality compared to his more outer space stories is phenomenal. Like you watch Ambassadors and then you watch something like Frontier, and it's almost like, where the hell did the production budget go between those two stories? Obviously we'll get on to Ambassadors at some point, but with Baker and Robot especially, like Robot had the most difficult job of establishing the new Doctor, setting out the new vision, and seeing how well, you know, they would take to it. So I enjoy the episode, for definite.
Also, I feel Tom Baker is like one of the few doctors that straight out the bat he is the Doctor. I think only like John Pertwee and Matt Smith did that for me.
Well, I guess with Tennant, you kind of had to. His first episode, he was barely in it, so
yeah,
you kind of needed to get a feel of his Doctor when it was the series.
It took me midway through series 2 for me to like really, because I was missing Eccleston,
and that was another thing. It was hard to follow in those footsteps because of how well he set it up.
Yeah, he established it. In terms of like post-regeneration stories, where do you think this sits in all the post-regeneration stories?
That's interesting, because last episode we covered a regeneration story, so to be the episode to cover the first, not the first post regenerate, but you know what I mean. I would say not as strong as the 11th hour. Definitely stronger than Christmas Invasion.
Yeah.
Stronger than Deep Breath.
Yeah.
I don't like Deep Breath at all.
Yeah.
Stronger than Woman Who Fell to Earth. But that's not really surprising.
Not too difficult, is it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay.
A wall with paint drying is better than Woman Who Fell to Earth.
It's okay. It's just like I just found it really underwhelming. I haven't seen it since it aired, so.
Well, do you count the giggle as a post regen or a regen or a bi-gen?
Bi-gen. Don't get me started on the regeneration thing.
Yeah.
Would be all night.
Robot is definitely better than Church on Ruby Road. That's a post-gen story. I'm gonna claim.
Yeah. I didn't like that either.
But is it better than Castro? It isn't better than Power of the Daleks, in my opinion. Power of the Daleks is better than Robot. I would only say because I do like. I'm biased because I like the Daleks. And those shouty boys on screen, whenever they appear, it's golden. Even if it is like Destiny of the Daleks.
What's wrong with Destiny of the Daleks?
We'll get to that. I'm gonna leave you in suspense.
I kind of like it, so I have a feeling we're gonna disagree on this one. That one.
Oh, I'm gonna love that episode. But yeah, I think Robot, I would say it's probably in the top 5, and I would say it's nearer to the top 3 than I would say the actual top 5. I think the only 2 episodes that are probably better, in my opinion, are Power of the Daleks and the 11th Hour.
What about Spearhead?
Again, in the top 5. I would say maybe on the same level, because Spearhead is good, but it kind of takes a while for the story to really kind of kick in. With Robot, the story kicks in pretty much from the get-go. With Spearhead, it kind of takes a little bit of time. That isn't a bad thing. It's just
the doctor's in bed for half of it, talking about his shoes.
Yeah. So, and I think with the post, like, okay, I like Christmas Invasion as a story, just generally. It's a good story. But when the Doctor is incapacitated, I just find it a bit annoying, because it's like, okay, you've intentionally wrote him out the story because you know that when he's in the story, it's hard for you to write, oh, the Doctor's defeat, and I feel like the post-gen stories that actually show the Doctor as needing to use his brain other than whatever he's got to hand, that works as a good offset. Robot is a good example because he immediately hits the ground running, and instead of just using, I mean, you do see excessive uses of the sonic screwdriver. For now it can magically open doors, and all this malarkey, and it's like, but it was only designed to be able to take screws out of a thing magically, like.
Yeah.
That's Chris's rant too.
It's fine.
So yeah, I mean, how do you view post-gen stories? Do you like it when the Doctor's not there for the entire episode, or?
I used to like Christmas Invasion, but as I've gotten older, I've watched it a couple more times. I'm like, yeah.
I can understand. I think I only like it because as a post-gen story, I mean, I see it with rose-tinted glasses. No pun intended. I see it with a very nostalgic view of being on Christmas Day, having eaten my dinner, and enjoying glorious Doctor Who in standard quality before the dawn of HD came along. And for me, I just will when we get there, like, you will see my bias come out for the Tennant era. And the Eccleston era. I am biased against it, but Eccleston had the best first series.
Yeah.
Baker's comes close. Tom,
yeah,
Colin Baker's first era.
Yeah, post regeneration stories. I think this is probably in my top 5. My favourite post regeneration story would probably be Power of the Daleks, Spearhead, 11th Hour. No, Robot, then 11th.
Twin Dilemma.
That I liked.
What was the one? Colin Baker's first
Twin
story.
Dilemma. That's right at the bottom. That was Pants.
Okay.
Along with
Twin Dilemma or Church on Ruby Road.
Twin Dilemma.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather watch that.
I'd say the opposite. I'd literally, I would take Shooty is actually decent. Shooty is the only thing holding up Church on Ruby Road, whereas Twin Dilemma, you do have,
I actually prefer Millie Gibson to her performance.
Perry?
Millie Gibson.
Yeah.
I prefer her performance to Shooty's.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that another day, but
yeah. No, I was just throwing it out there because I was like, come on, there must be like Twin Dilemma.
No, I'd rather watch Twin Dilemma than them bloody goblin things.
That is true. That is, yeah.
And that's that singing goblin thing.
Yeah. It's one of those. But going back to let's go back to 1974.
I was minus 18.
I was a glint in the milkman's eye. Oh gosh, this should just be called Off Tangent.
Yeah, I might actually keep some of these off tangent things in.
Doctor Who NAWP episode 2. We've lost our minds already. Yeah. So obviously this is the anniversary of Baker's first era, because yes, it did start in 1974, but most of his episodes ran throughout 1975. And as we are celebrating the anniversary of not just 20 years of New Who, but we're also celebrating this. What would be your favorite aspect to Tom Baker's first season?
I like the threesome of the Fourth Doctor, Harry and Sarah. I think that's like my favourite like TARDIS crew. They work so well together. The banter between Sarah and Harry in the Ark in Space. You know, Harry calling her like old girl and all that. He's just like this old-fashioned gentleman.
I feel like their chemistry works so well, and I know he was written out because he was deemed useless, but I would have at least liked to see them stick it out and actually have him as you know, because I do feel like having, especially with Harry being such a sort of sweet but actually quite formidable companion, you know, he can stick up for himself and Sarah, but at the same time he feels soft, he feels gentle, you know, you feel like you can have a pint with him in the pub, but if you went on his bad side he would tell you about it, and I do it, you know, it is a shame that only a decade later he would die. You know, this was pretty much his golden.
He passed away really young. He died on his 42nd birthday.
He died
in 1986, October the 28th.
Yeah. So yeah, he was 42, but he died on the same day he was born.
Yeah, on his 42nd birthday.
But that's like, I find that really strange when people die on the birthday of it. It feels really, it's like Shakespeare. I mean, that's obviously, it's unconfirmed, but he supposedly died on the day he was born. I find that really strange. And he died of complications with diabetes. Yeah, he had type 1 diabetes, which during the 70s was, you know, not really looked at as a problem, or it wasn't taken as seriously as we should be taking it nowadays. And it's such a shame because he had, not only did he novelize some episodes of Doctor Who, but he co-wrote Scratchman with Tom Baker.
Yeah, that was gonna be the feature-length film they were gonna make.
Yeah,
I would have loved to see that. I
honestly, I think they could have made it a TV movie if the BBC had said no, we're not going to make we're not going to go with an actual film product. But then Hammer Films could have got involved. Imagine a Hammer Films BBC co-production.
It would have been great.
That's the depressing thing about history, is you see in hindsight how things could have really been better.
Yeah, it was it was gonna be like made at the end of season 12, between season 12 and 13.
And I think that would have been a really good finale for the, if you had made it a TV movie or you know, a low budget horror movie, it would have been great as like a season finale or a season opener.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that film get produced.
Hopefully, with this whole, I mean, BBC might end up not co-producing with Disney anymore, but I do hope if they do bring on a new partner to oversee sort of budget things, I really do hope they push for maybe like one film, one series, maybe alternating. You know, they do one film and then they do a series the next year or something, because that would be cool. You know, actually get some Doctor Who films made, licensed.
Yeah.
Is there any more you want to? Sorry, go for it.
See the first Tom Baker season. I like that they were like heading into like that horror aspect that we come to know in season 13 and 14.
Yeah,
as well.
The more gothic
Um,
horror element.
they're not quite there yet, but it kind of starts with the arc in space with all the body horror.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And you kind of see the same thing with like Revenge of the Cybermen
yeah,
with but then I would say the more horrifying episode is probably Genesis.
yeah. But
Just for its more psychological aspect.
and what are your favourite aspects for the first Baker season?
Well, I think what I like most about Baker's first season overall is that you've got a more than competent cast. You've got the three golden members of any Doctor Who cast. You've also got the changing of hands between showrunners, and it's a seamless transition where it was like the baton was being passed on, but it didn't feel jumpy. So I think Barry Letts produced the episode Robot and then gave it over to Robert to sort of take on with Ark. And you don't necessarily see too much of a difference between the showrunners. You just see them as more background. But you can kind of tell that the show is in safe hands. Like, we've had transitions between showrunners previously, and the showrunner just has dropped the ball instead of ran with it.
Yeah,
And I feel like with Robert Holmes, he really did secure himself as one of the best showrunners because he kept all the original elements that made the series good, but he just said, let's go further. Let's try and push the boundary on what we can get away with.
yeah,
Much to the dismay of Mary Whitehouse.
along with Philip Hinchcliffe,
who again really did push the boat out.
Yeah, they went further in the more violent tendencies of Doctor Who.
But
Yeah,
you can kind of see when you look back on it, yes, it's a tad more violent than it used to be. But Doctor Who wasn't necessarily a safe show anyway. You can look at episodes of the 60s, and there's some horrifying elements in those that I find just as scary. It's just the use of violence is a lot more prevalent. But I actually, that's quite interesting because nowadays we have all this sort of censorship on you can't show excessive violence or like nudity, swearing, all this kind of stuff, but it's all based on a moral panic, and you've seen that there is a very fine line that you can tread, but tread it in the right way, in the most careful way, and you end up having some good episodes rather than it lacking. You don't want it to just be a safe episode every week because people won't find it interesting. They need to have the characters in this conflict of threat.
Yeah.
That's what made Genesis of the Daleks one of the best episodes.
Yeah, that's my problem with New Who today. They're playing it a bit too safe.
It's almost like the whole plot armor argument. How no one can die because the plot is defending them. The plot is written in such a way that they're never gonna. And I hate it. I really don't like it because there's nothing that is threatening.
There's no conflict, no threat,
and you kind of have to be scared. That's the Doctor Who was about being scared, but being courageous in that feeling. The feeling of horror is you're meant to be scared, but you're meant to power through it. And nowadays it's so I'm just gonna say in Empire of Death, the last the previous series, I knew that they were going to come back from the dead.
Yeah,
Because it happens in every single Doctor Who episode.
It's very predictable.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like the modern writers just don't understand, is they need to have a level of threat that really... Like, I think the last great episode that showed that was probably Oxygen, the Capaldi one.
Yeah.
But that was deep. That was deeply terrifying because of the, you know, the idea that you could, if you run out of money, you can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add to?
Is that a Chris Rants part 3? Oh, this is just going to be like a Chris Rants episode, isn't it? No, I think for me, the one last thing I want to touch on is Elizabeth Sladen, because obviously, you know, she passed away in 2011, and obviously her debut was the previous series, but this was the first time she had worked with a new Doctor, you know, and became... I think this was the series that probably secured her as one of the fan favorites. And you can kind of tell because, I mean, there are a couple of times, you know, the depressing thing about Robot was she was kind of a damsel in distress by the end, but she had a lot of agency in the first 2 parts. And again, that's another aspect of companions that we don't see anymore, is Elizabeth Sladen showed that a companion can think on their feet, and if the Doctor's incapacitated, can take over the role of the Doctor but not step on his shoes, you know?
Yeah, she really held her own.
And I like how she empathizes with the robot, and you know, she doesn't accept what the robot has done is right. You know, she fully condemns anything the robot does bad, but she understands that it's not the robot's fault. You know, it's the programming, it's the extreme scientists trying to manipulate the robot to do their bidding. You know, she sees it as this defense, again, like that King Kong element. She sees the robot as a defenseless creature and wants to help it. And I think that's a really interesting thing because, again, you see modern companions and their attitudes towards showing empathy is very hit and miss. We'll have the character show empathy if it makes any sense to the plot of the story, but if it gets in the way of the Doctor, then we can't. And it's like, why can't you just show the companion having empathy and the Doctor having to be conflicted? You know, I think the best episode that showed that was Dalek, and that I think is even more interesting because the Doctor has even more of a bias to not trusting the Dalek or its motivations, you know, historical precedent. And yet Rose, who's never witnessed the Daleks, has never seen the inception of, you know, can still empathize. So yeah, I just wanted to end on talking about Liz Sladen and the fact that, you know, she does make this episode worth watching.
Yeah, she really does make it worth watching. I like she. I think this is the last time she really plays that journalist kind of character in the classic run, and
like she doesn't really do anything journalism anymore.
Yeah, it kind of gets brushed aside later on,
which I feel like is a bit of a fault because. What it would have been nice is what if she was chronicling her adventures?
Yeah.
And then publishes it as a book or something.
Yeah.
You know? That would have been really interesting because then you could have had that journalism aspect continue. But, you know, I think, again, hindsight is a very interesting thing. You can see where the production went wrong in her characterization, but you do see you see the best parts of her character in this episode.
Right.
Yeah, and that was Doctor Who.
Yeah, that was robot. I was trying to roll my R's. Robot, that's it. Robot.
Ace money. Ace robot. It's a robot, not a robot. That's my Sylvester McCoy impression.
Right. You know what our next episode is?
I've forgotten. Remind me.
It is Eve of the Daleks. Yeah, I thought we'd go for a story from an era that we're a bit, yeah.
Let's go
so,
full guns out.
Yeah.
To be honest, it will be an interesting. We've done 2 classic episodes. It'll be fun to actually, comment on a newer series, and what better way to start that with Eve?
Yeah, Eve of the Daleks. Our first Dalek story.
Why do we choose the one Dalek story that people do not like? Find out next week. A week after.
Same Who channel.
Same Who time.
Yeah.
Time is relative.
You know where I got that from?
Same Who channel.
No. I stole it from the 60s Batman series. The same Bat time, the same Bat channel.
Oh, okay. Batman is hazy for me. I'm not as big as a Batman fan.
Yeah, I love Batman, so
maybe he should pop up in a Doctor Who episode.
Who, Batman?
Yeah.
Well, he got reference in a Batman episode, in a Doctor Who episode. Bye.
Bye. We don't know how to end things.
I know. I'm just gonna press end.